today on Earth than the total amount of humans who have ever lived. More humans today actually living on Earth compared to the total number of humans who have lived and who have died and who are our ancestors. And this has a very, very profound change on the way we work. So my name is Raphael Wulff, and I have the privilege to lead you through this 30-minute session today about running a successful Salesforce developer team, 100% remote. Another question I'm going to cover today is why I actually set up a Salesforce development team which is fully remote. What are the reasons behind that? So Apsynergy is a systems integrator. We are focusing primarily on non-profit customers, and we're experts with the suite of products by Salesforce.org. And we work with customers such as the Red Cross. We work with L214 in France, which is an association advocating animal rights. And we also work for a couple of other organizations such as the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. We also work with one of the UN agencies called OCHA, UN OCHA. And in addition to this, we recently set up something called Apsynergy Learning, which is a learning platform so that you are able to learn about Salesforce. Most of the content is in French. We also have a few bits and pieces of content in English. And the idea is to have technical sessions, also functional sessions, or sessions to present products which are relevant to our niche, which is, again, non-profit organizations. So, so to manage a successful team of Salesforce developers, in my view, there are 4 key ingredients. Now, the first key ingredient is to pick your team in the same time zone. I think it's very important. The other magic ingredient is to build a team, to actually build a team. The third ingredient is to train a team, to make sure that they learn about what their objectives and how to improve their skills. And finally, help others. I think if you're not minded to help others, it's not going to work in a remote developer team. So the very first magic ingredient I just mentioned is working in the same time zone. So we have people on our team who are based in Albania, in Cameroon, in France, Morocco, Switzerland, and Tunisia. So give or take an hour, that's the same time zone most of the year. Except for Ramadan, there's a 2-hour difference between CET and Morocco, for instance. But give or take an hour, all of the people are in the same time zone. And that helps us greatly because we're always online at the same time. And so it's easier to ping people because you know roughly when they get to the office. And so it makes everything much easier for the team to function correctly. The second thing is build a team. So you actually need to build a team. And this is an example on the left-hand side of the Marshmallow Challenge, which we held in March this year. And you've done it before? Okay, yeah, pretty cool. So you have a team, and you split the team into groups. And each group is given 1 marshmallow. So do not eat the marshmallow, otherwise you've already lost. So 1 marshmallow, 20 sticks of spaghetti, uncooked, string, and sellotape, scotch tape, okay? And then you have a limited amount of time, and it's the team with the highest standing tower that wins, okay? So you need to do this. If you want to run a successful remote team, once in a while you have to get together and have to have face-to-face interaction. Otherwise, it's less likely to function. On the example on the right-hand side of the screen, you have, for example, I was with a group of Salesforce partners and Salesforce in Dublin in 2019 before the pandemic, and we went out for a few hours fundraising for the Irish Red Cross, collecting coins and small notes from people in the street. And that was just an amazing experience, just time well spent getting to know other people from the ecosystem. So you do need to build a team if you want to run a successful remote Salesforce developer team. The third aspect is learning, knowledge transfer. So one of the things we put together, you might have seen it in the room over there, is Apsynergy Learning, which is a learning platform. And this is, the way it came is initially we had to within a matter of weeks we had to assemble a team of experts, and we figured this is a good way to do that. We put all the content we need on the platform, and then we said, well, why don't we open this up to other people and make it free? And so that's what we did. So we had a lot of content already because we've been doing this for years, training our customers. And so the content that we put up on our platform is to train our customers, but also to train experts. So we have technical sessions on our Apsynergy learning platform as well. That's the third magic ingredient. And then the fourth magic ingredient, we help each other. And this is what Salesforce Ohana is all about, isn't it? Helping other folks in the ecosystem. So no better way to explain this than when I was flying into to Casablanca on Thursday from Nice, and I was sat in the plane, and there was a family a few rows ahead of me, and there was the parents and two young children, and the youngest child was about 2 years old, and as soon as the father stood up and he went to the back of the plane, the child was very, very worried. Where's my dad going? Where's he going, Mom? And he started becoming very anxious and very worried. And so the mother, she took the child and then she rocked the child from left to right. And then the child soothed, and then everything was, the father came back from the toilet. And then in the next couple of minutes, I saw, just 2 rows ahead, I saw another family, and in that scenario it was a very old lady. She was maybe 85 years of age, and she also went to the toilet, and she was returning to her seat, and the son was maybe 50 or 55 years of age, and he helped her back into the seat. And so at some stages in your life you need help when you're a young baby, and at other stages in your life you are helping others. And so I think it's the easiest way to describe why it's important for us to run a great team, to help one another, to help our colleagues. So working remote, if you do it well, will allow you to reap significant and valuable benefits, okay, from the organization point of view. The first benefit for employees is saving time. Now this is the average time spent by people in Casablanca to go to work or to go to school. 48 minutes each way, okay? And that's an average of 15 kilometers each way. So imagine the time you're spending. I mean, everybody realizes this, but once you look at the numbers, it's mind-blowing, right? The amount of time we spent in transit. So we're going to save a lot of time. Less exposure to air pollution, less exposure to noise, which is also some kind of pollution, and reducing risks of personal and traffic accidents, okay? Now, when you look at the tools that we use as Salesforce developers, we have a bunch of tools, and we pretty much use the same tools, right? We use a code repository, typically GitHub. This is where we store our code. We access the code, we update it, we compare it, etc. Okay? We also have productivity suites from Google, from Microsoft. We have project management tools to handle tickets like Jira or Asana or Trello, Basecamp. Okay? So all of these tools, they are designed for teams which are thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers apart, because they work just as well as working with people on the other side of the room. And we use these tools all day long. So we are really the best population to actually enjoy the benefits of working remote. So then COVID hit. So COVID, why is this relevant? It's relevant because if you look at today's job market, in France at least, I think in the US it's quite commonplace, but in France, since the pandemic, we now have job offers which are full remote. And that was pretty inexistent before the pandemic. So employers are willing to work with people on certain jobs who are full remote, and that's accepted. We also, by default, within our company, we work remote. So in our contracts with our customers, when you sign a new contract, it says in the contract that all the work is done remotely. Obviously, we're not closed to having meetings, but I'd rather have it put in writing so that we manage the expectations of our customers. We will travel to visit our customers once in a while. One of the members on our team from Morocco traveled to our client in the UK. And so we do need to do the face-to-face, but by default, it's remote. The attitudes have changed before and after. Before, customers would say, oh, we want to do these workshops with you, you know, in our office, or we'll go to your office. And that's no longer the case, you know, by default. And the customers, they don't mind if they're being told, well, let's do this workshop online, or we have a four-hour workshop, let's chop it up into 3 pieces. Okay, so it's more manageable, more palatable. And finally, I think COVID was simply, if you remember your chemistry classes when you were younger, what a catalyst is simply if there is a chemical reaction taking place, it takes place at a certain pace, and a catalyst is simply there to accelerate the pace. And so that's what COVID is. It's a catalyst. And so I wanted to share with you also some findings before we wrap it up with about a study made by the OECD. I found it online, the address is here. And in essence, it says the following things. Working remote offers the potential to improve productivity. However, on worker well-being, there are pluses and minuses. It works for some, it does not work for everybody. It helps to level regional inequalities. It's much more expensive to buy an apartment in Casablanca compared to Oujda, Agadir, other places, okay? Same in every country. Compare the price of Idaho and San Francisco, for example, it's 2 different planets, right? So it does reduce the cost of housing for employees. It reduces CO2 emissions. However, the impact is ambiguous. It's ambiguous in terms of innovation. Typically, sitting next to your peers fosters innovation, right? You're able to ping ideas off your colleagues. Also, worker satisfaction. It's ambiguous. So some workers love working remote. Others prefer to be with their colleagues at the water cooler, at the coffee machine, etc. So it needs to remain a choice. That's the conclusion of this study. And so the second aspect I want to rapidly discuss with you today is why I set up a partner organization which is fully remote. And the answer is, well, because we can. It's possible. It's possible today. We have the tools to do it. So if we don't have a legal presence in a country, we can work with partners. There's a partner called remote.com, which allows you to have a presence in country. And also because it's the course of history. I think that what we're doing here is, what we're witnessing is we're simply witnessing barriers being brought down, barriers being torn down. And so yeah, so I think it's the course of history. Okay, so I want to thank you for your attention. And before we leave, I have a few hiring secrets maybe that I could share with you. So hiring secrets. So as I said earlier, it's very hard to attract the right talent. But if you're looking for a new challenge, well, definitely use LinkedIn. I find that's the best place to find candidates. It's expensive for employers because all those campaigns that if you see a job advert in LinkedIn, it's been paid for. Be assured it's being. There's a free job post, but the visibility is 0, right? So do not apply unless you have the right match. If you have the right profile, do apply. For example, if your headline does not say Salesforce Developer in LinkedIn, I'm unlikely to actually read the CV. And network with your peers. In such an event like this, this is probably the most likely place where you're going to find your next gig, your next job. So do make sure that you network at these type of events. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much. Any questions, any comments, any discussion points? A bit ahead of time.
Thank you very much for the presentation, because sure. What you talk about is the dream of any business owner to have their workforce, entirely remote.
Yeah.
But the execution, that's what's a bit problematic.
Yeah.
Because first of all, how do you do on an administrative perspective to hire people from another country where you are not based? Is it like a standard full-time contract? CDI like we call it in France, or is it like on a contract basis?
It's
like
both.
Freelance or something?
Most of the contracts are freelance, yeah. But we also have CDI contracts, okay. Depending on the location.
Then if they're working only with you, isn't it like can you be into trouble because they have only you as a client, as a freelancer?
No, that's only in France. We have that issue in France.
Yeah.
So
I think pretty much everywhere, even in Morocco. If you have only one customer as a freelancer, then you might get into trouble.
Yeah, the main concept that we look at is if there is a link of subordination.
Yes.
So if the developer has enough initiative and enough movement to provide a service through a services agreement, then typically it pans out correctly.
With regards to the time zone, for example, so if you impose the time they have to work, then it might be perceived.
We don't do that.
Okay, so they can.
Yeah, we don't impose the time to start or finish. We do have recurring meetings.
Okay. Yes.
So if you have a recurring meeting, obviously, and it's at 9 o'clock, well, yeah, you have to start at 9 o'clock. But we don't impose they need to finish at 5 or 6 or 10. It's really they're independent, and it works out quite well.
And how do you manage freelancers leaving your organization because they are less tied as if it was a full-time contract?
Yeah.
So in the middle of a project, a freelancer can just say, okay, tomorrow I'm not here.
It's the same for employees. I mean, employees.
They have no spirit, so.
Yeah, but if you go to your employer and say, look, I want to leave. I have this fantastic opportunity in Canada. Okay, you can pay me for 3 months. I'm not going to do much, but typically employers, if they know someone's going to leave, they're probably going to organize and come to an agreement with the person. So it's the same challenge as with employees leaving. It's a bit faster, of course. Yeah, it is. Let's be honest, it is faster.
It's more brutal. So
it is more brutal. Yeah.
To manage, I mean, tomorrow you won't have this resource. So how are you going to manage that for your projects?
Yeah. So.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to start because we lot a little bit with freelancer, and we still have in our agreements that, for example, they have 6 weeks.
Notice period. It's like normal B2B, you cannot take contact with customer without notice.
I'm not talking about US, of course, because in US the law is a little bit different, but in Europe you can put in the contact with any company, like be it freelancer, be it normal company, you can say you cannot stop services if not, at least month, 2 months, 6 months in advance. So this is something that you need to put in your contract to avoid the situation, and then there is basically no difference between like contract. Sorry.
No, that's correct. I mean, we do put such provisions in our contracts. So, but it's like managing when it's a problem you need to manage, right? So you need to prepare and make sure that everything is in those tools that I showed earlier, the code repository, the Trello, the Asana.
Also an inevitability in our section. So we're always keeping that in mind that tomorrow this person might go, this person might go. So we make sure to be ready for that. It's kind of like, so the bus thing, so if somebody it's a bit brutal, but if somebody were to be pushed under a bus tomorrow, you should be able to go on with that. So we always have, other people ready to carry on that work. We always make sure that some knowledge is specific to just one user. So this way, people go and come, so we're ready without the notice period. We kind of do that as well for a month, but regardless, we try to always be ready to kind of move on. We shouldn't be stopped just because one person left, which always happens, unless it's me, of course.
Yeah.
Is it like a team per project, or like team can work on multiple projects?
So we have both. So some resources are working on just one project, and other resources are working on several projects.
So it depends on the size of the project.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you have like legal stand here in Morocco?
No, we do not.
So the people that work in Morocco just freelance.
Yeah. Here at the moment, yes. At the moment, yes. Yeah, Jakub?
How often do you make on-site meetings for our team?
So because of COVID, it was a bit weird. So, but since we could travel again, this is my second time in Morocco here, and I can't wait to go to Tunisia and Albania as well, where we have other folks. So.
Does it mean that you are meeting like your people on their countries, but you don't make like on-site meeting with all invitees?
We haven't done that yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not easy. The biggest challenge is visas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
I have another Yes, I have another question around how you work with the people, because they work on separate projects, and we all agree that the kind of attachment to the company is important.
Yeah.
With your colleagues. Do you have any kind of daily or weekly common online activities that you do, you know, to increase the spirit, let's call it this way?
We don't, but I thought about it, and maybe we should try it. Maybe we should try it, because the problem is we spend so much time in front of screens that I'd rather invest more money and come less frequently, but to visit the people than to. But yeah, I think we should try it. I think we should try it. Yeah.
The hirees you have, usually how much experience do they have? How much experience do they have? Is it like more senior or more junior?
Oh, it's both.
And don't you have like engagement problems with the more junior hirees?
What do you mean by engagement problem?
I mean, people who are more junior can be disengaged much more easily than people who are more senior because they're not as autonomous. Do you have this problem with the remote work?
So we typically don't put people who are very junior by themselves on projects. We're always with them. They're never alone on a project if they have little experience.
Yeah, but the fact of being remote doesn't impact the engagement they have with the organization.
It's different. It's different. It's a different engagement that they have with the organization. I was talking during the break with someone about the fact that it's considered impolite sometimes not to put your camera on when you're talking to someone on Teams or on Google Meet, because it means less interaction. It means less. Oh, I can't see your face. I can't see your. Are you smiling? Are you sad? Etc. But it's a different way to work. It's just hard to compare. It's hard to compare. But you get more productivity. You know, there's more time writing code. There's more time writing documentation. There's more time looking at training. But again, it's not for everybody. I mean, I realize that many people are not geared towards this. Some people will absolutely hate working from home. They despise working from home. So I'm not saying it's good for everybody. Right. Vas-y.
Well, I wanted to ask about when it comes to hiring.
Yeah.
Are there any major criteria that would hire freelancers, of course? Are there any major criteria that would pull that person to be the one that you choose?
Not really. I mean, we do a number of things. We typically have a technical challenge. We have several different types of interviews. So an introductory interview, a technical interview. Sometimes we have an interview with our client as well. So I'd say what I look for is typically people who are eager to learn, who are open-minded, people who want to, who aren't worried to be challenged by maybe learning new stuff. So they only know Service Cloud and Sales Cloud, but yeah, it's Experience Cloud, let's do it. I'm interested in learning Experience Cloud. So I'm looking for people who are very sort of, who are eager to learn, eager to improve.
What about certificates? Salesforce.
Yeah, so our policy, oh yeah, they're must have, absolutely, yeah. And our policy is to, as best we can, we have vouchers and we do our best to pay for the certification. I know it doesn't happen all the time, but I'm constantly reminding my team that if you have a certification you want to do, we'll pay the $200 or whatever, $400 it is to, so yeah.
I want to ask about like the method that you use to work, like Agile or the daily meetings.
Yeah.
And the second question is this team, does your team work on the project alone or with another company's team? Like some big projects that you send 4 people and there's like another 10 people on the project.
Yeah, so we use we use Agile. So we have the daily standards, all the ceremonies related to Agile, yeah, all the tools that I showed earlier, we use them, or we've used them and we swapped. And so yeah, so for large projects, there's always, always. You never have just one partner on a large deployment. Yeah.
So how do you handle like the progress of a project when like it's not only your team, it's like other project managers and other teams?
Yeah. So
just send the developer and like it's their responsibility.
No, so typically we would synchronize with the other partners or we'd synchronize with the client. When we're all together in the trenches, as we say, you don't care if this guy's from Accenture, this guy's from Capgemini. We all have a common goal, right? we have a go live date, for example, or we have a release date, and so yeah.
Yeah, but like the specific tasks are not written by you, but by a project.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes the product owner is with the client. So typically the client will write will draft the user stories, and then just like I think every other development team, the developers also contribute to the user stories to improve them, to challenge the product owner and say, hey, well, what do you mean by this, and why don't we do it this way, or why don't we do configuration instead of code? So yeah.
A lot of time also you have within the client company you have a hosting manager.
Yeah.
So we do synchronize a lot with the hosting manager. But some big projects usually have different data points and metrics to kind of evaluate the performance and so on. It can't always be accurate, but at least you have this data point, so you know how the team, the different people you have within certain projects are doing, and how the team is working.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much.